Good morning, Quasar Markets Live. You've got your main man, Howard Greenberg, here, the host of Quasar Markets Live. We will have the big man himself, Stephen Orr, coming in a little bit later here. Markets a little subdued so far. We definitely see that they've had a muted response to the latest labor market data. Didn't really shift any narrative on rate cuts. We do see the conflict in the Middle East continuing to weigh a little bit on risk appetite for sure. And we do see here, if we look at the SPY down about a quarter of a point right now. And we can see on the short term chart here, bottom right, it's got up as high as 569.90 before seeing pretty much the last 15-20 minutes a pretty much move to the downside. So still seeing that. U.S. jobless claims, which gauge the initial claims for unemployment insurance under state programs, came in about 225,000 in the week ending September 28th. There was estimated to come in at 221. Not much of a move off of estimates, but it does seem just a little weak again here today. You can see NASDAQ QQQs down 0.43 here, and again, since the 8:30 sort of high of the morning, we've continued to drop down. Part of that, I think, is worries that the Federal Reserve interest rate cut might be 25 basis points and not 50 basis points, as we've seen, moving things and sending stocks a little bit lower. As I said, the ADP report didn't really show anything to make people move. We know there's still all the threat of war in the Middle East. We still have the issues from Hurricane Helene coming in. So overall, a slow start to the day, to say the least. Bitcoin did lose that 61 handle again. It had gotten back above 61 earlier this morning, but now has fallen back down to 60,486, down a quarter of a point. I do have to say, what makes me nervous is when I see J.P. Morgan being fairly pro on Bitcoin, talking about it as an actual hedge against debasement in an article. I think it was either Market Watch or Wall Street Journal that had that. That's when I start to get a little bit nervous, because what we tend to see is, right, that's when the rug pulls start. So we'll be on eye for that. Some of the things that I'm looking at this morning: Tesla is down here. As we know, yesterday Tesla had their estimates of car data, and they posted third quarter deliveries that rose 6% from a year earlier and slightly beat Wall Street expectations. But quite frankly, we had seen much more expectations in the last couple of days that they were going to point to a much bigger gain. We didn't see that. As we can see, Tesla down about 1.5 points here going into the open. Excuse me there. Other ones in the news this morning: Levi Strauss has been getting pretty hard, down almost 12% in pre-market earnings. Gene Maker reduced its fiscal year revenue outlook, and again said it was reviewing strategic alternatives for its Docker lines. I had someone in one of my chat channels I'm in say they didn't realize Dockers were even still being made. I can tell you, when I used to be in the restaurant business, Dockers were every bartender, waiter had Dockers, but they are down significantly here. It does look like on the hourly chart was starting to maybe see a bottom, but I don't know, man. That one definitely is, moving in the wrong direction. The company did expect fiscal year revenue up about 1%, down from their prior guidance for growth from 3%. So, again, a lot of reasons we're seeing that move. This was as they had a third quarter earning of 33 cents a share, which did beat estimates of 31 cents, and their revenue rose slightly. But again, I think that the expectation, in their future guidance is really what hurt them. We saw Steve make a great play in Humana yesterday, buying it on the lows and selling it up as it moved back up yesterday. But it's still getting hurt here, down about another half point in pre-market movement. I will say I had someone who is involved in the marketplace, the healthcare marketplace, say that this is a big deal, that, it's not just your general. It's not like when it's more like what Moody's does, a downgrade to a company, than when you see Deutsche Bank, Bank of America, Guggenheim or Raymond James analysts give a downgrade to a quality rating. Humana, when they Medicare and Medicaid cut the quality rating, it's a major move, because the people that sort of decide for companies what they're going to offer their employees look at those a lot of times, from what I now understand, to make their decisions, which means that you could see a great amount of companies that don't offer this Humana plan, which was responsible for somewhere around 45% of their business last year, not being offered in a lot of major company stuff. So that's where the difference is that at a bigger level you could see it get pulled off of the options that people have a choice to. Hims and Hers Health getting hit pretty hard here this morning, down about 12.5%. This is as the FDA removed the Eli Lilly drugs, Zepbound and Mounjaro, from the shortage list. And what that means is, when it was on the shortage list, other companies that are what we call compounders, they are basically pharmacists that follow just a recipe. They don't create the recipe, they make the recipe, so to speak, or they assemble it. More of a cook versus a chef type thing. And now that that's the case, there'll be more stringent guidelines, and they won't be able to sell it as much. So definitely seeing that drop here, down about 13% here, as that news continues to hit the guidelines. EVGO, one of the ones I have down here in the bottom of early morning pumpers to keep an eye on here. EVGO up about 27%. That is as they've been moved to upgraded to overweight from neutral at JP Morgan, with a price target of $7. It was trading at $3.93 here, now up to about $5, but one that is definitely on watch out for a continuation here of its breakout. So far so good, so definitely one to keep an eye on. Heading back into my upper side here, NVIDIA up tremendously, well, not tremendously, but up 2% here after having a good day yesterday. And what we're seeing is a few different things. We're going to talk a little bit further about OpenAI and their fundraising round. But what it's been announced that they invested $100 million into that fundraising round. The other thing that I found here, I'm just looking for that article, is I thought it was interesting. I saw that their CEO was on the news yesterday, and he said that the demand for their new Blackwell chip was just insane, was the comment he used, just insane. And as such, we're seeing NVIDIA move up on that news. Not very surprising. So definitely interesting to see. And that was you don't usually see people say that much. After that, we got Stellantis here, and as we can see, down about 4.26%. And again, they were downgraded at Barclays. The Jeep maker also had cited deteriorating industry dynamics and Chinese competition as an issue, high inventories at their dealerships. So they had already seen that gap down that we see here from like 16 to 13 back on Monday of last week. So, just seeing, or this week, 2 days ago. So seeing just more of a drop here from Stellantis. I will get into an article. I'm sort of waiting till Steve comes in later to ask him about this. Saw an article that was asking is, have we seen a bottom on the European car makers? So stay tuned for that. Around 9:30, we expect the big man to be in. Another one that I was looking at here was up nicely yesterday, but now had moved back down in open pre-market hours. Looks like people are not buying the news. That's a silicon carbide technology company that was downgraded from underperformed to neutral by Mizuho. So, and they set their price target at $8, moving it from 17. So you can see it's falling down. It closed at 9.15, now down to 8.54. You could expect to see even further fall there. Constellation's had an interesting move here. After earnings were announced, it took an initial jump up, but as I guess they had their upper management talking and analysts sort of analyze what was actually in the numbers, we're seeing a drop here now, so down about 2.57%. It was actually trading at a positive. Like I said, it was up as high as 257 or so, 262 even, before it took this turnaround. My biggest takeaway is don't worry about your Modelo. They made it clear that with the port closings, they're prepared to drive their Mexican beers up over the border and get them to everybody here in the U.S. And we know Modelo now the #1 selling beer in the world. They did take a big one-time write-off on their wine and spirits business. That was part of the drop here today. So, they posted earnings of $4.32 a share, which did beat the FactSet estimate of $4.08 per share. Their net sales, though, were below the consensus call for $2.95 billion. They were at $2.92 billion, and the sales rose about 6% from a year ago. But like I said, their wine and spirit sales declined 12%. Definitely took a hit there. And the comments from their CEO was that while the current macro environment backdrop has weighed on demand for beverages and for consumers' packaged goods more broadly, we continue to deliver strong performance. They did reiterate their revised financial outlook that they provided in September, so they are expecting adjusted earnings of $13.60 to $13.80 a share in fiscal 2025. And they're looking for enterprise net sales growth between 4% and 6%. So, didn't really make a big change to their forward guidance, but they did not hit all the numbers that were in front of them here on this quarter. Next, Nike dropped about 7% here between yesterday and today. They withdrew their full year guidance. They're having a change in their CEO, as we talked about the other day. So they removed their guidance. That seems to have spooked the market tremendously. They are in the middle of that CEO transition, like we said, and they are showing an underperformance compared to rivals like Adidas and Puma. So another one getting hurt here. We did have some upgrades and downgrades I like to give you before the market opens. RTX, which is RTX Corporation, an electronic in the Aerospace and Defense Center. They were given an upgrade from Deutsche Bank. So RTX given an upgrade. Seen it up about 0.69 here in pre-market hours. So RTX one to keep an eye on. IVT, which is InvenTrust Properties Corp. They got an upgrade from Bank of America. Actually, can pull that one up here. And they raised their share target from 30 to 33. Another upgrade we saw, although that is actually moving down in the hours, is EMKR got an upgrade from Craig Hollum. Did gap up big Friday, so maybe that's why we're seeing some of that sell-off here. Some downgrades to the markets, and we're seeing VRCA, which is Verica Pharmaceutical. They got a downgrade from Needham. They're down about 0.9% here in the morning hours. Next, we have AGL, which is Agalon Health, down about 2% here today. It was down about 2.5% yesterday. Again, that was another Bank of America downgrade. And they established a price target of about $3 a share for the company. It was trading at $3.58 at the time of the announcement. Another downgrade was PRMW, which is Primo Water Corporation. So they got a downgrade here. Also, they are now, though, moving up in the early morning hours here. So even with a downgrade, seeing some positive movement. So doesn't seem to have spooked investors there. T-Mobile got another downgrade, this time from Raymond James also. And we can see, again, a little bit of a hit, about a 1/4 point there. Let's talk a little bit about the pre-market pumpers we're seeing here. I did check in with my man at Prosper Trading Academy, Charlie Moon. We were talking and looking at a few things here. Elab, Alevi Labs. They did just actually have good news. So this isn't just a pump on no news. The news here, the impedance, is that they are they're applying for a patent on a drug that helps when obese weight loss happens due to these new, Zepbound and Olymp, whatever the other ones are. This drug helps prevent or stop muscle loss that's coming in some of these cases, that people are losing muscle as opposed to fat. So you're seeing it really move here. But this is one that definitely still has legs. You can see here. This is about the third attempt to break that point. 1.1595. You break above that, though, you could see this sucker really move. It's got room. It's got room up to 0.3898. Here it will hit some resistance along the way, but you could see it try to fill that gap here today. So that's one we're keeping an eye on. Another one from the watch list to keep an eye on: HKD, AMD Digital. You can see it made the big move up here early this morning, and has retraced a little bit, but seems to be finding some support here at its current level around 505. Was as high as 545. So if we see this break back above the 528 level, could look for a continuation play in HKD. TOP, which isn't having a good start so far this morning, was another one that was on Charlie's watch list. Moved up tremendously yesterday. Again, TOP is a shipping company, so with everything going on in the world, thoughts that they could move up here. A container company. Another one was Sea Energy that we're keeping an eye on here. Could be an early mover. This one doesn't have pre-market hours, so it'll be interesting to see here in about 12 minutes what it does. On the opposite side, Charlie gave me one to watch for a fade here, WHLR. We've been talking about that. We talked about its pumps, back here, a few different times. This thing has pumped to the upside in the beginning of September. Made a move yesterday, trying to make a move here today. Charlie's not trusting it very much, thinks that you can see here each pump up has been shorter and they've retraced further. So one to keep an eye on here to the downside. EVGO, another one for a pumper to look to the upside. And you can see it's still moving up here. You see that break back above 538. Again, another one that could be a good pumper. And lastly, TOVX Thriva, which took a huge drop down. You can see here last week, and is now seen a pump earlier this morning. Sort of sideways, it gave back, but it's trying to make a move up again. If you can get this sucker to pop above the 2 handle, you could see a real nice explosive move to the upside. So definitely one to keep an eye on there. So, one of the things I wanted to bring up is that we are seeing, I'm going to actually bring over this and pull up our Fed Watch. And as we know, Fed Watch is a way to see what investors are feeling about the Fed rates. And what we see here is we're starting to see, and again, this is what I'm going to talk with Steve here when he comes in a little bit, is what we're seeing here is a widening between what the equity market is thinking and the fixed income market is expecting. What we're seeing is the fixed income market is expecting a second, basically 50 basis point move, and we see that in what's going on in the bond markets and where spreads are. And then, as we can see now, equity investors are moving to the side of that 25 basis point move up. So which one is it going to be? And we can see that this has moved over the last month, where it was pretty much a dead heat onto which way was it going to be, to where it is now. It's 63% to 36% on favored or looking for that 25 basis points here. So we'll find out a little bit more from Steve what he feels is that something to keep an eye on. How much does he read into that? Let's take a look here as we get going. VIX is up about 6% today, almost at that 20 level here, 1998. Again, volatility expected. Keep in mind, everybody's going to be waiting for tomorrow's jobs data. That's going to be the big one. So tomorrow's job data will be the big thing to keep an eye on. Dow Jones is, SPY down about 0.3. NASDAQ down about 0.49 right now. As we said, Bitcoin, it did take a nice bounce up here after dropping down below 60K here. So, seeing that support at that 60K level is good. We tend to see that. And you can see we've had some pretty good historical price action support here in that 59,000 range here. So, again, we have dropped behind the 50-day MA here. Do not like to see that. Would like to see us get back above the 50-day MA on Bitcoin to feel a little bit better about what's going on. We do see gold down about 0.38 here this morning, but it's been making a move up since about 9 o'clock. It had dropped down on that jobs data, but that is getting a little bit of a move back up. I'm trying to see, not exactly similar, but a similar move in Bitcoin right now. You can see silver starting to catch a bid here, trying to move to the upside. Oil we'll definitely have to talk more about today. And some things I was looking at when it comes to oil, my first question was, how much oil does Iran actually produce? And that, just so you know, is about 1.7 million barrels a day. And then I wanted to see, what do we have in spare capacity that we're not using? As we know, OPEC Plus had, limited production, did a voluntary production cut of about 2.2 million barrels per day. So, if you look at that and you look at the fact that they actually have capacity, they could increase to 5.8 million, you might say to yourself, well, then we're in a pretty good spot. But what I did find out, as I looked a little bit more into it, it's not as easy as just flipping the switches. There's a lot of things that would have to happen to get this production in line. And it says it takes time, and especially with a war-ravaged supply chain, adding more obstacles, and then you add in, here in the U.S., the port strike, although it shouldn't have too much of effect on that, but it does. Yeah, it does. I mean, our export oil gets done in the Gulf, so that's part of the strike. What I have seen is some estimates from analysts that say, it could be a recipe for some real near-term volatility. So those of you that like to play the volatility game, it could definitely be here in the oil market. And we can see WTI now above 72, up about 1.2 from yesterday's close. And Brent, which is the Northern Seas, up 75.41, about the same 1.38%. So those are things to keep an eye on. Also in the news, ones to keep, that I'm keeping an eye on are Apple, iPhone sales. Just seeing more things about weak iPhone sales, and you can see still continuing to move down here. Did have a slightly up day yesterday, but down about 3/4 of a point more than giving back all of yesterday's gains. So definitely keeping an eye there. Again, chips catching a little bit of a bid here this morning after Nvidia moving up nicely. So we see AMD up about 0.21%. Another one I'm going to go over with the big man Steve is, I said this yesterday, right? I felt like China was way overbaked. We have seen a nice move back down about 4% here in the pre-market hours. I just felt like it moved up further than it should, that the news isn't all good there. I think that, they got a lot of stimulus in there. They've shown that they might, and talk that they would, consider doing more movement that way. I get why they moved up, but it doesn't solve all of their issues, in my opinion. And you can see that, Baba, Baidu, JD is another one we've been watching here. That's down 4.62%. PDD is down about 4%. So we're seeing 4 to 6% downward move by most of those companies. What is NEO doing today? Yep, same thing. So they're moving in tandem here pretty much. And I did warn of that. I did see that coming. And said that I think a short-term retracement could come. We'll see where it shakes out today before I would make a call one way or the other as to what I think happens next. But after this retracement, is this the entire retracement? Let me take a look at Baba's chart a little bit more closely here. Pull up the day chart here. I think if it breaks, especially if it breaks down below 112 here, that will be where, 110 is where it's at, excuse me. If it doesn't regain 112, I think we see negative flow towards 106.30. So, I felt they were overbaked, so that's where we're at with that. I did see also Berkshire Hathaway is selling more Bank of America stock. So we're going to talk with Steve about that a little bit more also, because I want to ask about an article I saw that thinks that Buffett is getting all of his cash together to go shopping in Japan, especially in the big Japan trading houses, which are more like a hedge fund than what we normally consider to be a trading house. So we'll see there. We're about 2 minutes away from the open here. Other things I was looking at this morning, energy, Constellation Energy moving back up here. So again, yesterday it had gotten hit a little bit. It did move back up towards the end of the day, but had a red day yesterday, now up about 3%. Cost kind of giving back everything it gained yesterday, so Costco is one that we were keeping an eye on. It's more than given back that, and we can see it's pretty much right back at that MA support that we had talked about with Scott Bauer on Tuesday afternoon. So we're right about that level where he says to keep an eye at 867 area, so one to keep an eye on. We're 1 minute from open, 1 minute from open here. Let's see what else we've got going on. Like we said, Nvidia up about 1.7, so that seems to be the big winner this morning out of the Magnificent Seven. Just trying to see if anything else is moving one way or the other. Etsy's down about 1.43. Warner Brothers down about 1.3. Oh, Blink. So we're still seeing, iPower getting any love? Yeah, so still getting some love here in the EV markets, or the, battery markets. iPower that we were watching the other day, which gained 4.37% yesterday. And here we go. We are open. Let's see what we get here. Let's take a first look at the tick. Tick opening up, ooh, negative 1,000 here. That's a huge hit. So we're definitely seeing a big sell off right off the bat. And with that, we see QQQ dropping down to about down zero point 0.4 here. Trying to move back up though. Tick is now negative 564. So moving in the right direction here. That was just a quick burst to the downside. Let's see what we get. Let's take a look at our pumpers we were talking about here this morning. They can be the most fun to watch here on the open. What happens? ELAB that we talked about. It's holding up pretty well here, as you can see, bottom right-hand side, looking at that 3-minute chart. Holding up so far pretty well. If you're wondering what all those green and blue lines are below the ticker right now, that is a what we call a super guppy, which is a host of EMAs, which are exponential moving averages, and it gives you a good visual to the way the flows of the market. Here, I'll blow that up for a second. And you can see that it's had a nice move since 4 a.m. So it's had a nice ride up here. It's continuing. They're expanding. It did take one retest here of the bottom of the blue into the green. You look for those, but it recovered, and there it goes. So ELAB, there it goes. Look at that, right, as we're watching it here. So live here on Quasar Markets. There it goes, a pumper. There it goes. If it breaks 17 here, watch out. So ELAB moving to the upside. Look at that. We talked about that at 15 cents, now at 17. HKD was one that we had on watch here. What is that doing? Not as well. Got to get back up. You can see again here as we look at that EMA ribbon. That's what I love. It gives you a nice, easy visual to see what's going on here. Got to get back above that extended compression here where you see it compressed. That's giving it a forced move to the downside right now. That's what you tend to see. If it breaks back above that compression, then you see the move to that upside. So that's what we're watching for here this morning. What else? TOP. Oof. That one definitely moving out of range here. So TOP quickly coming off. Although it doesn't yet. We needed to break below 215. Anything below 215, we'd take that off of the watch list there. SHIP, we talked about that as a possible continuation play from yesterday. We would need to see that break, though, here above that like 1235 spot to feel that we did that. We'd want to break above yesterday's high, 1232. So again, if you're looking at SHIP for a runaway here, got to get it by that 1232 area. WHLR Wheeler, one that Charlie was looking at for a fade this morning. Can see it here on the daily chart. Hourly chart continuing to trade back down. Got to get back below that 10 MA on the hourly chart here. We're going to see it break to the downside. Fairly neutral again. What I will pull up is that's what you do see. It doesn't give you an answer all the time. What you have here is an area that started at 739 this morning, where it's gone pretty neutral here. That's why Charlie sort of had it on his watch list. Could go to the downside here. Let's see what happens. That's one to keep an eye on. EVGO, what's happening there? EVGO. Okay, here's another one we got on breakout alert here. On breakout alert, could it get above it? Got to get above, this 527, 531 area. If it does, it's got some pretty good room. If it breaks that, area, it's got room here to run for sure. TOVX, holding up so far. Another one still has that green wave under it, so for us that still leaves it in room to the upside play here. Room to the upside play on TOVX so far. Let's see what's going on with the market movers we talked about before the market opened here. We see Tesla moving back up. Okay, Tesla trying to test highs of the day here. 249.02 is highs of the day. So Tesla trying to reverse. That means if I had a look here, I'm going to say yes. QQQ trying to reverse here, trying to go positive on the day. Tick down to still negative 201, but we do see green candles moving it back in the right direction over the last 6 minutes. VIX has dropped below that 20 point. It was flirting with 20, got as high as 20.32 here. So that's good to see. The Dow is down about 0.37 so far, down about 2.37. You can see the gap down that it took here. on open. So now our question is, does it fill the gap? As we know, a lot of times we like to fill that gap. We got to fill a gap to 42,193 here if we want to see a positive day out of the Dow. QQQ moving up nicely here. Question's going to be as it gets to that 481.63 area that we maxed out at, earlier this morning. What happens as it approaches that? Trying to get to the highs. It's at the highs of the market open here. So moving in the right direction overall. Does seem like we're starting to get a little bit of momentum. Tick trying to go positive here. We're up to 9. We are positive. Positive 3 in the tick. Positive 29. Tick turning positive here. Send that out to the folks. Moving to the positive here. VIX coming down even a little further. 1965 here. So we're seeing a little bit more of a direction forming in the market. CEG still holding up pretty well here at that 272.28 area. So still seeing that open up, hold up pretty well. Donald Trump stock up another 1.48. It was up pretty good yesterday, so that one's still moving. Moving up again for the second day in a row. FedEx getting hit again here today, a little bit down, almost a point. It had made that nice move up earlier as the strike started. IBM positive, Intel positive here. So again, chips getting catching a little bit of a bid here. Levi down about 6%, so it's taking a move up. So as people are digesting again, as the retail trader is digesting the news of what's going on after their earnings reports, I guess they're not as afraid of the Docker issue. Market access up nicely here this morning. That's an investment bank brokers. They having a nice move up here. Not seeing anything really. Seeing a high volume though. They're starting to get their volume moving here. So this is what I'm going to put on a watch list here for our possible pumpers down the road here. Starting to see a daily increase in volume pick up a little bit here. Could be one to keep an eye on. MSTR MicroStrategy here trying to move off the lows of the day. As Bitcoin moves down, we know that does. Let's see what's going on with BABA and the other. Yeah, so BABA did get a little bit of love, now retracing a little bit here after that. Bank of America down about 0.6% again. Part of that news that we had was that they had seen a sell-off again from Berkshire Hathaway. VRCA getting a nice move up here as we open up the markets, up 5.41%. Again, they're actually doing that after getting a downgrade, so it doesn't look like the analyst report is affecting them as much as it's affecting others. ELAB not able to keep those gains, so first attempt to make a breakout so far. Didn't do it, doesn't mean it won't do it, and we can still see nicely above the green there. HKD is making a move here, is trying to come back. We're getting close to that point here on HKD. That is AMTD Digital, a package software company. Wheeler not fading yet. Not seeing the fade yet there. EVGO holding up and sort of sideways right now, looking to try to get momentum. I like the way that chart looks, I'm not going to lie. This thing is showing a little bit of momentum here. Breaks out. You could see a breakout on EVGO here. TOVX here. This is one that if it can't break resistance at $1.93, could be a good short play here. Again, looking at Theriva Biologics. If it doesn't break through this $1.93 area, could be a possibility to short it back down towards the $1.24 level. We tend to see what I always call the Bart Simpson sometimes, big in the world of crypto. You make the big explosive up, you then spend a lot of time getting the haircut done, but if you test that too long and you can't break through this level right here, what you tend to see is a drop back down towards this level. So definitely one I'll be keeping an eye on for us here at Quasar Markets. Okay, let's see what else we got going on here. We'll say, equities are on pace for our first weekly loss in about a month. It's going to take a little bit to turn that around. Let's see what else is going on in the news. Do see an article here by Barron's talking about what I was talking about, and the Chinese name says shares of e-commerce giants Alibaba and JD have fallen 4.4 and 7.9% respectively, while electric vehicle makers NIO and BYD dropped about 7% or so, and even Tencent, the game developer, was down about a point. The setback is following an impressive rally that came after China's government and central bank unleashed a wave of stimulus for the world's second largest economy. Measures included interest rate cuts and additional funds to buy stocks. While some analysts saw this as the start of an even bigger rally, I would not be one of them. I feel that the measures aren't enough to get China's battered economy back on its feet. And Kathleen Brooks, research director at XTB, seems to echo my sentiment and says that the China stimulus rally has lost steam. And we do know, keep in mind that the Chinese markets are closed for the Golden Week holiday. So that's one to keep an eye on. What's happening with our man Tesla here? Tesla's gone positive. So again, we have a little bit of a positive move here. Some other news I did see on Tesla is that the website no longer lists the standard range rear wheel version of the Model 3 for sale in the US. It had been the lowest priced option, so now there is only the long range rear wheel and the all-wheel options there. Investors, for the most part, want to see more affordable Teslas, we've heard, not less. That was weighing on it, but we're seeing the move up here so far. They did produce 470,000 vehicles versus an estimate of 460. They only delivered 463,000 of those, so 7,000 were still, en route. But, we had seen estimates from some folks saying 470, 480. Wedbush analyst Dan Ives says it's a step in the right direction. But, as we talked about, Canaccord, their analyst expected closer to 470,000 units. He's now saying that's just a rounding error. But, what we're seeing is it's within line of what was thought, but the pump that you thought you might see from there that we sometimes get on, news from Tesla didn't make it move quite that way. So, it's one we're keeping an eye on. When it comes to EVs, I also did see Toyota is going to is delaying their rollout of certain cars, EVs in the U.S. So, again, we are seeing that. What's going on here in the markets, folks? Tick back negative. Tick is back negative, but this is as QQQ is trying to go positive here. Here it goes. QQQ trying to go positive, and we can see what's leading that. The chips, AMD up now 2.8, AVGO, Broadcom up 1.21, base cloud up 0.4. A little bit on the energy there, CEG up 3.18. We do see Salesforce and Crowd now starting to pump back up. They were down in the pre-market hours. They're hitting the positive here also. Seeing airlines getting hit a little bit today. Delta down about 0.85. Retail getting hit also. FedEx down about 1.58. Foot Locker down 1.35. And again, chips and computers, IBM up, Intel up close to neutral here. JD did get a little bit of love here this morning, so some folks taking the opportunity that still think that China rally is in play, taking that advantage of that to purchase some here as they drop down overnight. McKesson up a little bit here. MXTX, market assets, we talked about this earlier. They're moving up about 5% here. NVIDIA up 3.21% and trying to run here. I'll bring up on the daily chart, though, we are close to that trend line that we had seen giving it a lot of trouble here. Trend line today sitting right at about 123.80. Well, I'm just going to round up to 124. So 124, the key number I'm looking at here on NVIDIA. If it can't break through, could give an opportunity for a short down towards that 115 level. So NVIDIA one here after the nice move up of about 3.41% starts to make me a little nervous towards that trend line. And I will point out this is a daily trend line that goes back to June. And you can see where it tried here back over August. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 days to break through. Tried to break through once in July and did briefly break through one day here in September, but this trend line has still been fairly firmly in place in my opinion. So until it can show me an actual clear breakout and close above that, and that's what it didn't do here. So you might say, well, it jumped above that day. It jumped above it, but what we see is it wasn't able to close above it, right? Close back down that day at, just below the level. So while it was able to break through it, it did not give us what we would call a breakout. SMCI again, chips moving up here, up about 2.81%. See, Constellation, we know that they released their earnings. We talked about that here in the 9 o'clock hour. Continuing to see more of a drop here. Again, a big one-time write-off impairment on their wine and spirits business. Beer business was fairly positive. Tesla's now gone negative on the day here. Tesla now negative on the day. UNH giving back a little bit. We had seen UNH move up yesterday in reverse to what Humana had done. They would be one that would be a winner. If Humana gets hurt, they are a competition to that. Not seeing much there. Levi continuing to get hit here, down about 10%. Humana down another 1.64% here. It has bounced back over the last 10 minutes or so. You can see on the hourly chart, though, it's struggling. It's got to get, if it can't break above that 10 MA here, again, another one that's battling. You can see just if we blow up the hourly chart, this thing, it's just battled since, 2 o'clock yesterday. It just really can't break that line. So, this be another one I'd be looking for downward play towards that 206 area again that we saw yesterday if we don't see a breakout here. Hims tried to get a little bit of a push up this morning again, hurt by the news out of the FDA that Eli Lilly and others of those drugs, the weight loss drugs, coming off the shortage list. NVIDIA trying to make a move up at the highs of the day. So NVIDIA 3.64 up at the highs of the day. Will it break that 124 point here? That's what I'm looking at. If it breaks 124, do we get a breakout? Do we get a return towards the highs that we saw of 140.76 back a few months ago? Stellantis still down about 4% here after their downgrade. Wolfspeed continuing to get hit here, also continuing to march down. Constellation continuing to march down. Nike trying to go positive here after, again, getting the downgrade there and removing their full year estimates. Did see UBS is cutting their fiscal year 25 and 26 sale estimates on Nike by 12% and 7%. But they did raise their target level to $82 from 78, trading at about 83 here. So we'd still have to make a downward move to fill that, analyst expectation. ELAB trying again here. ELAB trying again. It's been up, like I said, we were looking at it at 15 cents. It got as high as 18 before dropping back down. But again, showing some consistency. HKD and AMTD Digital still in the game too. So those of you that are watching those, they are still there. TOP not, ship not. So we're not seeing the continuation play from the ones that had made that move up earlier. Wheeler. Again, a break below that 10 MA. That's where you could see the bottom drop out here, 1583. It's going negative here, going negative. Can it break below that? Charlie will nail it if that's the case. EVGO, we talked about that this morning. Look at that continuing to go up. 540 here. That's up from about 490 when we first started talking about it. TOVX, more sideways trading, a little bit of a loss. And again, you can see now it's down here, 169. I did predict we'll see that come back towards that 128 here when it was trading at, 190. So another good one here, another good one to the downside that we brought it up right here on Quasar Markets Live. What else do we have going on the news? Let me take a quick look at my Twitter. See what we've got going on. Not much I see there. Let's get back to the major indices here. What do we got going on? QQQ went positive for a second, but moving in the wrong direction here. Like we said, semis continue to move up here. Seeing talk of ARM here, ARM. ARM Holdings. Another one that's trying to pump here, ARM Holdings. Breaks to the nice here. That could be a runner. That could definitely be a runner here. Seeing a report, weird time in the U.S. job markets. We seem to be living in a low hiring, low firing environment. Can't go on forever and something has to give. But with the Fed cutting rates, a rebound in hiring and layoffs staying low seems more likely. So, also seeing starting rents are out of control. Yeah, we know that. Apollo Management just came out with an announcement that they feel that the budget deficit is on track to exceed $1 trillion every year for the next decade. Yeesh. QQQ went positive again. NVIDIA, if I had to guess, is going to be leading that run. And it is up 3.53 here. So NVIDIA trying to break through to new highs of the day. Pulling back here a little bit on the ELAB. HKD, though, breaking away. HKD, here we go. HKD breaking out here. We talked about this morning. Be on watch here. 571. We were talking about this at the $5 range. Actually talking about a 472. So that's trying to give a run here, trying to get a run. Wheeler starting to drop down here. We could see this Wheeler, like I said, move to the downside. We're locking that for a fade. Our man Charlie Moon seems to be on fire today with his calls. EVGO pulling back a little bit. I still like what I'm seeing here on that chart. Play off that midpoint on the linear regression and the compression between the blue and the green here on the Super Guppy would be a strong move overall. So one to keep in mind here. We're about 5 minutes away from the top of the hour. I do want to talk about what we have on tap for you today on Quasar Markets Live. We have Jeremy Vreeland from Bullish Bears and Matthew Tuttle from Tuttle Capital, the ETF company that used to bring you the anti-Kramer ETFs, but who now has some great leverage products on MicroStrategy, on Netflix, on Bitcoin, and of course on some of the bigger indices out there. So they'll be in. They've been nailing it with their watch list lately. That's at 11:30, and then at 1 o'clock we do have my man Charlie Moon in covering for Scott Bauer over at Prosper Trading Academy for his live from SIBO. Although Charlie does do it from home, I don't want you to think that he's going to be live on the floor today. He'll actually be doing that from Colorado, but our main man Charlie. And then I am back this afternoon at 2 o'clock with our crypto update. So stay tuned today. We have a big day planned for you in front of us. Let's see what's going on here. Tick is negative. SPY down about 0.2 here. QQQ up about 0.17. Let's see what else we have hitting the news here. Do you see a typhoon starting to slam into southwest Taiwan? Oof. More bad weather. Seeing here in Europe, Tesco lifted its annual profit forecast after market share gains drove a 10% rise in the first half, giving Britain's biggest supermarket chain great momentum going into the Christmas. So good to see a little good news out of Europe. As I mentioned, I was reading an article talking about the fact that it might be the time to look at some of those, European car dealers that have just gotten their butts kicked lately. And that was coming from a couple of analysts, one at Barclay that I saw talk about it. And, we've seen Volkswagen, we've seen Mercedes-Benz, we've seen others, talk about concerns in the recent months over falling sales in China. Those companies have seen their sales slump in the world's largest car market as a result of the slowdown in the China economy and mounting competition from the locals. Here we go. QQQ getting up towards highs of the day here. QQQ trying to hit the highs of the day. We'll say VIX is moving back up a little bit after dropping down. So we're at 1969 here. It had broken above 20 and it was as low as 1941, but here it has been picking up a little bit. QQQ trying to make that move. QQQ trying to make the move. Oil and gold moving in the right direction. Also, Bitcoin back above 60,000. So, we did see it break below that. We saw it try to test 60 a second time, and it did nicely hold that 60K handle. So looking pretty good there. AMD now up 3.14. That's a runaway here today. AMD, we talked about that on open. With NVIDIA moving up, we're seeing the chips. Look at AVGO up 1.6% here. You can see it. Those sympathy plays do matter. Intel up half a point here. IBM up 0.24. Let's see what SMCA is doing. And, NVIDIA now up 3.76. Right, it's trying. It can't, as you can see, my spot here, it still can't break through that. 123.68 is its high of the day, and it's going to have to break 124 here to really, and hold above 124 for it to make that next move. I do like what I'm seeing here on the 3-minute chart. Hourly chart looks good too. You don't see its next resistance there till 120. Well, no, again, that 124 is going to give it. It's trying to make a move for it. Here it goes, up 3.9%. Can it make that run? That will take the market with it. We know NVIDIA is such a big part. Look at Palantir coming back to life today. My man Jacob Woods just pointed that out in our Slack channel. Look at that. Palantir really making a nice move, up 2.91% here today. And that on the daily chart looks great too. Another breakaway. Another all-time high. You know, after it set all-time highs, we've seen it give some pullback, but it's held up pretty well overall. You have to be happy if you're a Palantir holder here. Another chip company, Qualcomm, up 0.2. Look at SMCI getting a little love today, up 3.6 here, as we talked about. Tesla, you know, going negative here. So Tesla, which had seen a nice move up on the open, that is getting quickly sold off. So they are fading the Musk. I tell you, don't fade the Musk, but no one wants to listen. What else do we have? Let's take a last look here before we call it a day. It is the 10 o'clock, but we're going to keep it on for a couple of seconds here as we take a look here. eLabs is moving back down here, so eLabs is moving back down. What we're looking at now is as it approaches this VWAP here, this is the spot. VWAP is where it could get juiced again, so let's see. Does it bounce off of that? It did on its first attempt down at it. HKD losing a little bit of steam here, though. What we like about HKD is we're starting to see that coiled up green EMA. That could be a nice trampoline to the upside. Wheeler continuing to fall up. It actually did bottom out and now has gotten a little bit moved back up, but we did warn about this one. EVGO, here it goes, moving up again. Here we go, EVGO, trying to move to the highs of the day, 555, high of the day. If it can break through that, watch for a runner. Watch for a runner here. TOVX 3710. EVGO trying 553. Here we go, 554. What do we get the pop here? Do we get the pop? 554, 555. Getting hit at 555. Seeing some sell-off. Can it make the move through it? Can we see a volume candle here? I want to see a volume candle hit here in the 3-minute chart. There it goes, 558, 559. Again, we were bringing you this at $5 even, up 10% from there right now. Here we go. It continues to go. Don't be afraid to follow for continuation on trades like this that get that setup, that bounce off the important spots we're looking at. Those are positive signs. The VWAP has sent this thing skyrocketing up each time it's gotten pushed towards there. 560 here. Just broke 560. Here we go. Getting a runner. eLab moving the other way there. Whaler dropping again, down now, only up 19%. Again, we started talking about this when it was up in that 1750 level, now down at 1594. Ones to keep an eye on. Okay, that is going to wrap it up for me here in the morning show. Unfortunately, Steve wasn't able to join us. I hope you guys enjoyed what I had to bring for you. Please share with your friends. Hit the like button. Let people know that we do give good information here. We've been pretty accurate on our estimates of what's going to happen during the day. So I do think QQQ, as long as NVIDIA continues to stay up, has a chance here. The thing is, you know, that chip market can turn pretty quick here. So I would definitely be a lookout for a little bit of a retracement here. And if you had to put me on the spot, do we finish up or down? I think we're going to finish fairly close to flat today. That's where I'm calling for, fairly close to flat. Again, for Quasar Markets Live, I am your host, Howard Greenberg. See you a little bit